Welcome to the All49ers show. That's Jose Sanchez. I'm Grant Cohn. We are the All49ers. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch had their season-ending wrap-up press conference today. They live-streamed it on the Niners press YouTube thing. I posted it on my YouTube thing. You should have seen it by now if you've done your homework. I expect all of you have done your homework. Otherwise, get out!
Watch it now!
Jose, how are you?
Doing good. Now that we've finally figured this out. This little set camera scenario out. Sorry for the delay. It wasn't Grant this time, but it was my fault. I'm usually spot on. First time in like years. First time in 3 years since pretty much we've been doing this together, whether it was roundtable or not. But
no, it happened last week too. Jose was just having a technical issue, and we couldn't figure out what it was, what the source of it was. We thought it was like an internet thing, but we figured out it's the laptop.
My laptop's gonna get tomahawked basically after this.
It's gonna get tomahawked. So we have like a bunch of topics. We already have a bunch of super chats. So why don't we hit those first, and then we'll get into the topics. What setup do you use for press conference audio video? I use my laptop. I use my phone. Sometimes I go cinematic mode if I'm really feeling good. And what I do to get the good audio, they post audio on their website. You know that little microphone that goes to their website? I steal it.
Thief.
Don't tell them. But they don't post it for the away games, which really chaps my hide. Corey Soto says, I feel like Kyle shouldn't set this optimistic timeline of 3 to 6 months. Took Mullins 8, same surgery. People are already getting attached to that number. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Kyle and John really put the pressure on Brock Purdy today. New name, same suggestion, the honest a-hole, laughing my ass off. We could talk about Jimmy Ward's thing. I didn't see the whole thing, but we could talk about Jimmy Ward at the end too. Antonio says, I got to listen to a bunch of guys in the Twitter space, and oh my God, when you have something negative to say about Kyle, it's like you're attacking their baby. I do think it's becoming a pattern injury quarterback. Yeah, I don't understand why Kyle has like such a... I mean, what coach that's not a champion has this ardent of a support group? I've never seen it. Guys who won Super Bowls, yeah.
All the success in NFC Championship games and all the stuff like that, which I get it, but it's like, it doesn't mean he's immune to criticism, right?
I don't think so. Antonio says, what I hate most is the blame Brock is getting for the injury from everybody. Media, Kyle, and fans. He was the rook. Man, Kyle is such a coward, says Antonio. He's angry. John Lynch, Trey Lance injury prone. BP freak accident.
Dude, you just super chat yourself?
Yeah, slant bone. Sid Brown, $5. Masai says, "Are the Niners? If the Niners play in Australia, will you come?" Absolutely, I would love to. All right, let's get to our topics. Brock Purdy's timeline. It's very interesting. So John Lynch comes out and says, Brock Purdy's getting a second opinion, which is smart. But everything that we're hearing is that he'll be back in 6 months, and it's the good kind. And of course, when they go and do the surgery, they'll have to find for real. But everything the MRI is saying is that it's the good kind. And Kyle comes out and says, "Yeah, from what I hear, he'll be ready to go in 6 months." The 3 to 6 month time period is where the ramp up begins. And by 6 months, he's going to be the same guy. Meanwhile, you got Brock Purdy being like, I'm going to talk to one more doctor about that. How do you read this situation?
It kind of feels like they're really dead set on wanting Purdy to be the guy. I think that's what it sounded like to me, which I don't think I even needed them to say it. I mean, I think it was more so of them doubling down like, hey, even though the injury's bad, I think Purdy's still going to be the guy. And at this point, we're going to play with house money with Trey. It's like, all right, Trey, let's hopefully kickstart development, hopefully knock off some cobwebs, get you back in the fold, which, your ankle was almost twisted the other way kind of from back in September. So I think it's pretty much just them just doubling down like, hey, like, we're confident, and I think he's still going to be the guy, because you're not talking this comfortably about someone else's injury and stuff like that. And his timeline is pretty much like, if you don't think he's going to be your starter going forward. And, I mean, it almost seems like they're now want to give Lance so much of a chance regardless of an injury or not. That's the kind of way I kind of took away from what they were saying about Purdy's injury.
To me, it sounded like they're desperate for Brock Purdy to play. They said Jimmy's not coming back. Trey Lance is still Trey Lance is still a guy that's a question mark that they haven't demonstrated that they can win, that they can keep healthy and win consistently with. They haven't demonstrated that. And you got Brock Purdy, who, was magical. And so it feels like they're pressuring him. Hey, bud, you're going to be fine. Our doctors looked at it. They're okay. They really feel like you're going to be ready. Just like they were okay with him going back in that game. I don't know. If I were Brock Purdy, I'd get the surgery. Because here's the thing. If he doesn't get the surgery and comes back as fast as possible, there's a significant chance that his arm won't be as strong as it was before. If you get the surgery, at least in baseball, people that get Tommy John surgery usually come back with like 5% more velocity. So I don't think this guy has any velocity to surrender. He has to keep it all. And if he's going to rush back for the 49ers who put him in this position to begin with, I mean, he should do what's best for himself.
He's kind of giving me a little bit like Mac Jones Patriots vibes. I think when Mac got hurt at the beginning of the season, I think around that time or training camp, where the Patriots are like, they're telling him don't get the surgery. It was pretty much a dispute between the two sides where Mac wanted to do something that put him off longer and pretty much the safer route. So that's what's really going to be curious to see. And I wonder how long a decision that Purdy's going to come to. Probably won't be until next week that he finally comes down to something like, hey, I'm going to surgery, or I'm just going to rehab, or I'm going to heal it on its own, or whatever the case is going to be. But for him, it kind of sounds like he's more leaning towards like, I'm just going to do what's best for me. And I think it's also maybe the way his family's going to talk, like the way he's like very close to his family, just how they're out there. He's probably over there fielding questions, fielding advice and stuff like that. It's like, the Niners want this, but I want this. It's like, hey, you got to do what's right for you, man. Because right now you're getting paid $700,000, and you coming back and hurting yourself and ruining your career before it even really takes off, it's not beneficial to you long term.
The way that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan spoke so freely about it today, I mean, let's say Brock Purdy decides to get the Tommy John surgery and shut himself down for 12 months. I mean, by coming out ahead of it and saying we think he's good to go in 6 months, they're essentially putting the pressure on him and making him look like what? Soft, selfish, what? Not good if he decides to get the Tommy John surgery. I don't like that. I remember back when I first got on the beat when I was covering Jim Harbaugh, who had his own issues. If you asked about people's injuries, he would always say, I'm not in their body. You got to talk to them. For reasons like this, I'm a player's coach, or I want to be. I'm not trying to pressure the player. But Kyle and John John was a player. Kyle's supposed to be a player's coach, but they put heavy pressure on Brock Purdy to come back today. You don't think his agent felt that? You don't think his parents felt that today? Maybe they're leaning on coming back, or maybe not. And maybe they're watching it being like, oh, wow, that's how they want to play this. Okay.
It's funny how you bring up Purdy's agent, because that's something Jimmy Ward talked about for a quick second on his IG Live last night, talking about like the quarterback problem, whatever. He did dive into like, yeah, if you're Purdy's agent, not just because of like his injury, but like, salvaging his future in terms of like making sure he's okay. But then also like, hey, my value's up. Do I just keep playing for this, or I know where I'm going? I know where you guys need me, and I'm looking like I'm going to be the guy. So yeah, this is where I think like kind of maybe they pressured him because like they want to like make sure he keeps on using the contract they have him, because right now if he was healthy, he's the biggest steal of any starter in the league by far. But I just think because after they had all that success and finally saw how great he elevated the offense, which is why I think Kyle was so quick and so simple and so firm, and why he was like, Jimmy, no chance he comes back. Versus last year, Jimmy, there's no chance to come back because I'm tired of him getting injured, and I just saw a guy who right now instantly came in and uplifted us like crazy, and that was fun. So I'm done with him. We're cool, Trey, it's fine. He'll be a backup or whatever. But you kind of get the sense that's where it is. That it's kind of been like the writing's been on the wall for like the last several weeks that he was going to be the guy. I mean, the injury really is the thing that opened up. It's just now after he's gotten hurt that they're pretty much saying like, I'm not really down to like surrender that he is the starter going into the camp or the season.
Doesn't this remind you a little bit of last year when Jimmy had some injuries and the Niners were like, oh, he's good, he's fine, and then and then free agency comes about and they're about to trade him and they're like, oh, Jimmy just had surgery. Jimmy just had surgery on his shoulder. He's not gonna be ready. Oh, damn! And then they were like, it seemed like they were mad at him all offseason. Like our doctors disagreed. I mean, Jimmy's within his rights to do what he wants, but our doctors disagree. That's essentially what they're doing right now to Brock Purdy. Like, our doctors feel like he's good to go. What's he going to do? I don't know, man. I mean, Jimmy had all kind of leverage because he has $100 million. He's 30 years old. Brock might feel like, hey, if I decide to get this surgery, maybe Kyle gets mad at me. Maybe all of a sudden Trey Lance is back in favor and I get buried. I mean, who knows what he's thinking? I mean, I feel like they sent him a message today. Hey, bud, you want to be the quarterback on this team? Put some dirt on it and get back on the field, bud.
Yeah.
Bubba says, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying Brock's probably just weighing it at this point because he's never been injured like this before. So that's something new. It's like, what the hell, man? So that's why when he's standing there on the sideline with his pads on, it's like, as when you're an athlete, it's like you're probably not only you're in shock, you're in denial, you're pissed. It's like, did this really freaking just happen? Like, are you kidding me? And you're just like, what do I do? Like, you're pretty much in uncharted waters right now where he's at. So the best thing he can do is pretty much just like gather as much info as he can and then make the right decision that he feels is best for himself.
This is the question he needs to ask. If he gets the repair and not the reconstruction, will he lose arm strength? If he comes back in 6 months, will he lose arm strength? And if he gets the Tommy John, is out for a full year, will he get the full arm strength back and maybe a little more? If he loses arm strength, don't do it, Brock. Don't rush back for Kyle Shanahan because he'll just get you hurt again. Sorry. Don't rush back for that man. He doesn't have your best interest in heart. Protect yourself and your future. Get that arm strength back. You have zero to spare. Zero arm strength. I love when people do that in sports after they do something good. They do this one right here. I like
Called
that.
the goggles.
I like that. Bubba1914A says Kyle may be sick, took zero blame for the fact that he put Croft on a top edge rusher and a deep ball and took zero blame for using Trey like he's Josh Allen. Are you surprised? Has Kyle Shanahan ever taken responsibility publicly for anything? Ever. Once.
Not even just injuries. Like, it's like, okay, it's like, great. If you want to say, like, you can't blame him for injury. Injuries are freak accidents. It's true, the part of the game. But what about when things don't go right? Oh, the players didn't execute it. Oh, it's like, damn, okay, I didn't realize he was such a god like that. He was so flawless.
Yeah. Amazingly. He's never made a mistake. Brock Smith, $5. Miguel, thank you, says, yo, Kyle apologized for getting his quarterbacks injured, LOL, in a snarky way, but still apologized. Yeah, he seemed real defensive. Sid Brown says it's Groundhog Day with this team. How many times has this regime put false hope in returning injured players? I mean, it's what they do. It's what they do. BP says them saying they're happy with who they have is so disappointing. This means nothing will change. Hope their actions will be different. Your thoughts? When have they changed? I haven't seen much of an effort to change or do anything differently.
Run it back.
W shirt, Jose. Re-sign Jimmy. Sign Fangio. Jimmy Ward. Sign Fangio. Joshua Bourne says, I know this won't happen. Please don't kill me, but we need a winning coach that is good with vets. Mike Holmgren. Yeah. I think the you got it. Probably the baby boomers are done coaching. No offense to baby boomers, but my dad said that yesterday.
Appreciate your suggestion, but Mike Harmon's a no. Isn't he the one that was like slandering Trey Lance for a whole offseason last year? Not for a whole offseason.
Was it Martz? Was it Martz? It might have been Martz.
Oh, it's Martz. Wait, was it Martz?
It might have been both.
Holmgren was actually defending him. I remember he was on the game. Wrong old coach.
Thoughts on Reggie Bush's tweet that Brock better start throwing left freaking handed since Mahomes played injured. I don't see him come back in the game when he slipped out of bounds and sprained his. Ooh. He said that. He said that. That's really weak.
Which is also funny because I think also like a month before that he was talking about Lamar. He was defending Lamar, but he's over there telling Brock to go in there. So it's like, wait, what?
Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. I mean, my question to go down there. This was for John Lynch. I didn't really want to hear because I knew Kyle was going to give me a snarky answer. I wanted to hear John. I'd ask John about the injury because he's the reasonable one, right? You're the reasonable one, John. I believe in you. So I asked him, and he gave an answer. And then Jason Cole followed up at the end and asked Kyle, and Kyle gave the snarkiest, most defensive answer ever. And that's why I asked John. So I'm going to play both. Let's listen, and we'll react, okay? It's got about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Injuries have been an issue the past few years. Jimmy had several. Trey's had a few. Brock's had a couple. Is this offseason, is this something that you feel you need to find a common denominator for or somewhat of a solution for, or is it something that's just bad luck that's out of your hands?
Yeah, I really believe, that's a tough position to play in this league. I understand there's some players who've had incredible durability. As Kyle said earlier, I think Brock's been incredibly durable throughout his career. He ran into just an inopportune situation where he's trying to throw the ball downfield, and you got an NFL edge rusher, pulling at your arm the other direction. It's just not going to hold up. So that stinks. Trey had his issues, and Trey's had a rough go here the last couple of years. He's obviously going to have to prove that he can stay healthy. But I know, there's periods in my career early on where I struggled to stay healthy. Then I went 8 years without missing a snap. So that happens sometimes. And yeah, it does. I'm sure people wonder. Jimmy's had his issues. But believe me, it's nothing the way we play our quarterbacks or anything. I think it's just, coincidence, and we look into everything, but I don't think we have any more of an issue than anybody else. I think that's a tough position in this league.
We're good.
With all due respect to John's answer about quarterbacks, when you go through a season and you have 4 quarterbacks get hurt, does it cause you as a coach any hesitation? They're all different. You as the person who draws up the plays, hesitation on how you're protecting them, how they're handled, what you do with them.
Yeah, I think when you ask that question, that way I understand. But I think if you looked at the injuries, common sense would answer that question. I mean, how have they gotten hurt? I mean, I'm sorry Josh got a concussion when he hit the ground. So that's the fourth one you're talking about. I'm sorry our quarterback got his elbow bent backwards on a normal drop back pass. I'm sorry on a drop back pass, someone rolled up on Jimmy's ankle. And then we have a dual threat quarterback who got hurt running the ball. So to throw all those four in that category, no quarterbacks got hurt when we had to hand it off the whole second half. So we can look into that.
Yeesh.
Defensive. What did you think of? Well, first of all, I was disappointed in John Lynch. I thought he would say, yeah, we've had too many injuries at the quarterback position. You can't win a Super Bowl if you can't keep the quarterback upright. I'm not saying it's our fault, but we got to look into it. The kind of the things they said in the past about the injury issue at large, but he was like, it's a coincidence. And then Kyle just was straight up, was like, yeah, I'm sorry that this guy got hurt this way. I'm sorry, this guy, maybe we'll just run the ball every time now. Goodbye. I was like, oh, damn. So what did you think of like the way they answered those questions?
He probably dreams about running the ball like that anyways. Lynch was, of course, if Lynch says that, it's pretty much almost indicting, condemning to at least a degree.
Real quick. Lynch essentially said Jimmy's injury prone, Trey's injury prone, not willing to go there yet on Brock Purdy, but it's up to these quarterbacks to figure out a way to protect themselves. It's not our fault. We're not going to do anything. It's not about how we do offense. It's either a coincidence or it's the quarterback's fault. That's what he said.
Yeah, I think it's not even because then it's not even just this year that you lost 4 quarterbacks. That's been happening like every year that you lose multiple quarterbacks. Whether it's not even losing, it's that multiple quarterbacks get injured and multiple injuries. Now before it was always like, okay, Jimmy's injury prone, which there's no debate about that. I mean, I feel like I'll blame him more than I do ever Kyle. But it's like, all right, now Trey. Now it's like at some point there's some
Beathard, Mullins, Josh Johnson in 2 quarters.
There's some to me this year if we're looking at if you really want to play the blame game on injuries, I'm the number one. I'm always going to be steadfast on that Trey Lance's injury, Kyle's fault, for sure. Putting him in that position was messed up. Jimmy Garoppolo, more Jimmy's scrambling. It's like that's not Kyle's fault. I don't see it as Kyle's fault. So that's more freak. And of course, Jimmy is going to get called up on like that because that's just the luck he gets. And then Brock Purdy, of course, you have the backup tight end Tyler Kroft inactive last week. You're going against an all-pro edge rusher who you were familiar with, Hassan Reddick, former Cardinals edge rusher, and you kind of just leave him just like, all right, screw it. We're going to see if it works out because he's been working all season. We're not going to adjust, which I think was foolish. And then Josh Johnson, a little bit more of a freak. But I'll give you a debate on that. But yeah, I see it's Kyle's like 2 of 4 on the injuries this year at the very least. So I think the way they're just handling it's like no, don't look at me. How dare you? It's always the way, not even just with injuries, that college has always views it that way. And it goes back to the point of lack of accountability. Is he actually even at least doing it when he's in the locker room to his players, something like that, or is it just like, is he really internalizing that? That's what's going to be like the curious debate of what always goes forward with this situation, and ultimately, is it going to get better? Is it going to get better? That's ultimately all everyone wants to know. Is something going to get proved? Is something going to get decided on or figured out?
Yeah, because it seems to me like what you need to say is, I don't know, but we got to figure this out because keeping your quarterback healthy is the most important thing. Like their defensive philosophy on the Niners is hit the quarterback. Hit the quarterback, because that's the great equalizer, right? Because the quarterback is so important. Well, if that's your philosophy, then the flip side is protect the quarterback, right? That's the most important thing that you have to do on offense. So what they should say is, we don't really know if there's one overarching thing or one common denominator, but we do have to solve this because we have to solve. But they didn't even say that. They said, we don't have a bigger problem than anyone else, and it's football. It's a violent position. It's a tough thing It is what it is essentially what they said. I don't see how that inspires confidence in the team, the fan base. If you think this is a problem and you listen to what they said about it today, I don't see how you can come away thinking that they're going to improve anything.
They probably
or address it
because the fact that they went down to their 4th string quarterback, a guy who was just here less than a month ago, it's chalking up to more of like a freak deal and an outlier because it's never happened before. It just doesn't. That's never happened before in league history and probably won't ever again. So I think that's talking to more like, you know what? It was just a bad accident. What are the odds this will happen? There's no one to blame here in this sense because, and especially because it was not only one quarterback, but 2 quarterbacks that got injured in the same game in the NFC title game. It could be more looking at like again, what are the odds we get on our fourth? And what are the odds that they both get hurt? It was just bad luck. It wasn't meant to be. Oh, well, running back again. But really, that's not how they necessarily should be looking at that, especially in the case of Purdy, because, Purdy was just, why are you? I get it. The whole debate, play action pass. You just want to slow them up. You don't want to. But it's like at some point you got to figure out who your opponent is and realize that that's not like the optimal matchup to make. And the counterpoint to that could also be like, should have Brock Purdy have stepped up? Was Josh Johnson holding the ball too long? Whatever the case may be, it's like it's like you can't be depending on these guys to be making those veteran type of moves that only like the top tier quarterbacks can make when you're going up against such a solid defensive front. I just think ultimately that's how they're chalking it up. It's just like it was a freak deal. It was a freak deal, and so I think we're fine. It's not our problem.
But it wasn't a freak deal, and here's why I feel like the Niners Kyle got what he deserved a little bit in this game. I feel like he wanted to come out and make a point of showing that Haason Reddick isn't that good. I mean, he made a point in his script to have multiple deep play action shots where he blocked him with tight ends, and he didn't do that with Micah Parsons. Like there are 5 to 10 defensive players in the league that you would classify as game wreckers, guys who can not just hit the quarterback but hurt him and ruin the game. Nick Bosa's one. Micah Parsons is one. Aaron Donald is one. Kyle Shanahan, when he respects a guy like this, is very good at not letting that person wreck the game, but for some reason he had no respect for Haason Reddick. And so Haason Reddick wrecked the game, and he wrecked his quarterback, and he raised huge questions for this entire season, all because Kyle thought Haason Reddick was just some guy, just an edge rusher. No. 19 and a half sacks. I don't understand how Kyle got that so wrong. What was he looking at on film when he was like, oh, this guy's not so good? Really? Okay.
I think
really?
More in the defense of Kyle if he didn't try to block him with Croft, who was just inactive, and he opened that. And when you inactivate a player for a playoff game or just any game, for that example, especially this late in the season in a playoff game, that's always telling me like there's something you don't like about him, or maybe you really are thin somewhere else. But to me, that's always. But they inactivated him for Ross Dwelly. So that tells me something. They like something better, or they were just pleased with something out of Croft.
I guess they thought Croft would be a better blocker on Haason Reddick than Dwelly.
Apparently,
who do we want?
Yeah, to me, it's like if they had done that with Kittle from the rip, I can find that more defensible because he always gets touted as the premier blocker, and
they did try it with Kittle on the second drive though, and Kittle whipped and Josh Johnson got hurt. Crazy.
Yeah, but if it was the first one, I think maybe maybe Kittle would have held on maybe another fraction of a second more, which probably would have made a difference. But I think if you're going out there and saying, hey, we're going to put Kittle out there to try to slow him up and hold him on for a little bit longer, it makes sense because it's not like Kittle was the designated target in that play specifically. It was Brandon Ayuk. So thinking about like, oh, you're taking away a weapon, it's like, well, it's not taking away a weapon if you're really only doing a one read play in terms of Ayuk, and the rest you're just looking for the underneath, which anyone could do, like a John Juan Jennings or a Deebo Samuel. So to me, it's like I'm always trying to find like what's the pushback on that, and it's kind of hard to find a pushback on defending Kyle. It just would have been easier if you said, okay, we put Kittle there to try to block him, but you tried a backup quarterback, and that's essentially kind of get poo-pooed on as deserved.
I just assumed they would say, we got to address it, we got to fix it, and they basically said, hey man, it's actually not a problem. It's actually nothing to see here, not a problem. Oh, okay, well, I'm sorry. I don't think you can gaslight your entire fan base. Maybe some people will agree with you just because you said it, but I think most people can see for themselves that you got 4 quarterbacks injured and that was a record. The nerve to say Trey has to stay healthy. I thought that was, man, if I were his agent, I'd be pissed. I'm not, though. So I'm not. I'm sorry. What a joke, Shanahan on the hot seat, says Davis. Hey, I wonder if he is. Like, if they missed the playoffs this year because they totally bungled his quarterback situation,
yes.
What happens if he misses the playoffs? I think you gotta fire him if he misses the playoffs. I'm not saying you will. It's a good team. In this year's past, Lynch was visibly upset at losing Super Bowl NFC Championship games. Today, he was resigned to losing. Team lacks authenticity to win a Super Bowl. Curse of Eddie D. I thought Kyle looked burnt out, but maybe it's just because it's the end of the season. He looked tired.
It's looked that way every year. At this point, man, I don't blame him.
Yeah, it is common sense, Kyle. When you said common denominator, you should have done the Dumb and Dumber point at Kyle. Block with Croft. What a dork, says Ominous 24. Gizmo Maltese says all they had to say is we need to protect the quarterback. That's what I'm saying. All you had to say is it's the most important thing. We have to do it, and then just be super vague about it. But they were like, I mean, he pretty much has to protect himself. That's what they essentially said. Kyle is so smug for a guy who's choked at every big game he's coached, says Rich. That's pretty much exactly how I feel about that guy. I mean, good coach, yeah. So smug for a guy who's choked in every big game he's coached. Yes.
You know what
But again, it's bad luck. It's bad luck. It's not his fault. It's not his fault.
I just, why can't it be a combination of both? I don't get it. Why can't there be the Venn diagram when things intersect? That's why I don't get it. Like, why is that gonna be one or the other? But I digress.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
That quarterback hit, now that you mentioned that after your repeated time saying it, now it's making me think. I was supposed to have a Tom Brady article coming out before he retired at 5 o'clock this morning, our time. That made me think, like, were you guys actually going to go after Brady? Because he's the one that is the true quarterback that knows how to protect himself by throwing it away and like ducking before he gets hit. So I'm wondering if maybe that was...
Yeah, just checking down relentlessly. So many people are praising Kyle for his answered joke. On Twitter, it's always people, cheerleading the Niners, and on YouTube, it's more people who are like critical. It's way different. Sachin, thank you.
More open mass, that's why, versus just
I think so. Bobby says, sounds like another slow start to a season next year. A quarterback competition between two young injured players isn't a Super Bowl plan. That's true. That's a plan to really not get either guy fully prepped. What's up, Grant and Joe? Says Double B Studio, due to injuries, Niners will always fall short of a Super Bowl unless they win the NFC and host a home game, which means they would need to start fast and finish strong, which Glory says it's the O-line. It's always been the O-line. Imagine if they were investing in their O-line the way they invest in their D-line. Yeah, I don't understand, again, how you have this philosophy of D-line is the most important thing and not figure out then, well, that means that the O-line is just as important, right? I don't know. What up, honest a-hole?
D-lines are easier to find than offensive linemen, especially like the last 5 years, I'd say.
Philly finds them both. Jeff, hella weak, Jose. It's South City in this thing.
What's
South City? Jeff, hella weak, Jose. It's South City in this thing, says Stuntman.
Luckily I didn't go to Jeff, so.
Mo says, if Fangio joins, do you think he can make Drake Jackson an Alden type outside backer? Same measurables, and Drake is faster. I don't know. It's on Drake. Kyle had nothing nice to say about him today. Said he lost his power. Double B Studio says, Kyle said heck no about Jimmy G, and Lynch gave Kyle a look like, oh, he must not know. LOL, got to address O-line this offseason. QC needs to push. We will. I'm doing it right now. Kittle instead of Croft is still a bad call. I mean, McGlinchey. Offensive tackles have a tough time blocking Hassan Reddick.
Sense. Like saying put him back up tight end Tyler Croft.
Not any tight end. Not any tight end.
The thought process is like, oh, he's supposed to lose. And it's like, so you're pretty much saying, like, we want our blocker to lose against not arguably, one of the best defensive ends in the league right now? That just blows my mind.
I understand wanting to put tight ends on D ends on certain play action plays because you do it on run plays and you're trying to make it look the same. I get it. But you can't do it on game wreckers. You can't do it on Reddick, Bosa, Parsons. You didn't do it on Parsons last week. No one does it on Bosa. There's a freaking... You know why? Because it's stupid. It's just stupid. So if you want to justify it, fine. I understand doing it on certain edge rushers. You want to do it on Samson Ebicom in practice? Go for it. On Nick Bosa, you wouldn't do it on Nick Bosa. You didn't do it on Micah Parsons, but you did it on Reddick because you scouted him incorrectly. Slant Bone says, you did. Jose, I'm sorry, but if this team chooses Brock over Trey, they will regret it tremendously. But then again, the Niners always pick the wrong quarterback for the last 25 years. Doesn't seem like they're making any type of pick. They're just do what they did last year, which was not making a decision.
I'm scarred about if this is like a small. If this is the best we've ever seen of Brock Purdy now, especially after the injury. Like
now he's got it's possible. It's definitely possible. Isn't that sort of what happened with Jimmy Garoppolo? Burst on the scene, 7 starts, got hurt. Never really the same. Let's move on. Another thing that they were talking about today, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan both had the same thing to say about the NFC Championship game. All due respect to the Eagles. Really well-built team. They just wish, the 49ers just wish that something so freakish as this Brock Purdy injury hadn't happened so that the Niners could have been afforded a real chance to compete with that team, not whatever they got next year, but this team, that they were robbed of an opportunity to compete. And we just wish that in this alternate universe they could have. And to which I want to say, hold on. It wasn't just one fluke injury to one quarterback, man. Philly knocked out both your quarterbacks in about 2.5 quarters. The way I look at it is, if Philly wouldn't have knocked out Brock Purdy on that first drive, they probably would have knocked him out at some point in that game because they knocked out Josh Johnson too. It wasn't fluky. Your offensive line got freaking manhandled. And Kyle Shanahan doesn't really prioritize protecting quarterbacks. So the gap between Philly and the Niners, to me, is that while the Niners, they're very similar teams, but while the Niners have a bunch of weapons on offense, so does Philly. But the strength of Philly's offense is their offensive line, while the weakness of the Niners' offense is their offensive line. And until they can turn that weakness into a strength, they're just not as good as Philly. Philly has Lane Johnson at right tackle. The Niners have Mike McGlinchey. Philly has Jason Kelsey at center. The Niners have Jake Brendel. That's not going to cut it. I don't have a question for you. You can say whatever you want to say. That's my rant. That's the gap right there. And when they're sitting there saying, like, we wish we had an opportunity, well, if you had a better offensive line, you might have had an opportunity.
I think, absent of the quarterback, which obviously was the one that ultimately decided the factor, that offensive and defensive line matchup between both sides really was like the deciding factor, like hugely, and it wasn't even close. I mean, 49ers can pass protect. That does become easier to go after the quarterback more relentlessly against a Josh Johnson than it does a Brock Purdy, but maybe Brock Purdy, all he needs to do is make several throws like he did against the Cowboys to really make you pay, and then you start rethinking, okay, what's going on here? Because it's not like Jalen Hurts was really throwing, which is why the Eagles won in the first place. The offensive line, even though Hurts was pretty bad that game, they were able to execute beautiful blocks to allow the run game open, to allow just enough passes for Hurts to execute to keep drives going. That's really where it was just like, wow, I've never seen the Niners since 2019, for the last 3-4 years, get so dominated on both sides of the trenches, because they're usually the team that goes out there first and punches you in the mouth. And it kind of almost reminded me a little bit like last year when the defensive line was struggling against the Rams offensive line, and the 49ers offensive line couldn't really hold up too much well against the Rams, except this one was on a different level. There's it's also funny that you mentioned like how Lynch and Kyle were just saying like pretty much, and I think I'm gonna paraphrase it. It's like they're lucky Purdy got injured because we're probably winning that game. That's pretty much what they said. The way I think.
It's like lucky Purdy got injured. They knocked out both of your quarterbacks before the end of the third quarter. Like that was dude. Like if that was a UFC fight, like they broke your jaw and your. Like that was terrible what happened. That was vicious. I had to look away from the screen. Like that was NC-17. It was rated R. It's bad what you let the Eagles do to you because you were not equipped to fight with them in the trenches on either side of the ball. Either side. So the D-line has to get better too. I'm not going to call out anyone by name. It wasn't just one person. But frankly, the entire D-line got dominated by that Philly offensive line. And the entire Niners offensive line got dominated. The best dude on the Niners offensive line, Trent Williams, may have been the reason that those play-action passes weren't fooling anyone early in the game. Go back and look. He's doing the same thing. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. And Chris Forrester even told him, he's like, look, I talked to him about it. He's like pleading with Trent Williams, can you please stop tipping the plays? And Trent's like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to win my one-on-one matchups. PFF's going to give me a high grade, and no one's going to criticize me. But meanwhile, why is Hassan Reddick not honoring the run fake? I don't know. Boy, it's one of those things.
They're probably just telling them just to fire off and just go because we rather you because it's more. And this is the thing I was saying last week of the game plan of the Niners. Like, hey, if they run that read option with Jalen Hurts, don't crash into the running back. Crash into Jalen Hurts because most likely that Miles Sanders is going to gas you for just 1 to 4 yards. Yeah. Versus, and you're better off staying home and setting the edge for that breakout. But yeah, I think they were just because there was other times after that game where it looked like damn, Reddick's just shooting in there. He doesn't care. Like it doesn't matter what it was. Like was run play or not, he was just shooting in there. That guy was like firing off like a freaking bullet. Yeah, it's just. I mean, this kind of was the game that was supposed to be expected, right? It was going to be aggressive as hell between both lions. It's just who was going to really outlast the other, and it was kind of shocking to see how much of a mismatch. Especially, it really was, especially 49ers defensive line versus Eagles defensive line. I did not think it was going to go anywhere near as that bad because even as bad as it was against Dallas, it wasn't like it was so. It wasn't like it was so abysmal. It wasn't like it was so hopeless. Like there were still chances for them. But the Eagles, I mean, man, can you blame them? They have Pro Bowl and All-Pro talent top to bottom.
Well, I think what's funny about the Niners is they say they're committed to winning in the trenches, but they're not. They have half an offensive line. They're good on the left side. They're always good on the left side.
Yeah.
Always good on the left side. When have they had a good right side of their offensive line since Kyle's been here? Never. It's McGlinchey and a guard who's worse than him. And like sometimes they have a good center. And then sometimes it's freaking Jake. Well, Jake Brendel's not bad, but it's like Philly, meanwhile, has just a complete offense, the best offensive line in the league, and the deepest pass rush their D line is crazy. Has 6 first-round picks on the D-line. Like, they're not messing around, where the Niners are paying lip service to it. We got Nick Bosa and Trent Williams. We'll fill in the rest from there. I don't know if that's even good enough. I mean, you do have 2 of the best in the league, but that's not enough. Got to do better. Yeah, you got to replace Mike McGlinchey. You got to do better than Mike McGlinchey and Samson Ebukam. You got to be at the freaking, Josh Sweat and Lane Johnson level over there. You got to be that good.
I don't know why.
What are you going to do?
I kept thinking, like, God, the Niners, if they had DJ Jones, would have been so sweet in that game.
DJ Jones would have been – he was so good. He's really important, and they lost him. Well, now they got to replace him. Clea Davis, let's move on. Jay Ward called you an honest a-hole compliment. I'll take it. I appreciate it. That was like the nicest advertisement anyone's ever given me. Thank you, Jimmy. How does Kyle compare to other coaches regarding quarterback injuries? I don't know. I guess there's stats out there. It seems like he's got to be among the worst. It doesn't seem like – even going back to RG3 and Brian Hoyer in Cleveland, the only time he didn't get a quarterback hurt was when he was with Atlanta as an offensive coordinator. Maybe Dan Quinn said, hey, we're not going to block this edge rusher with a tight end this week.
I'm sure they had a good offensive line.
They did.
Like an elite offensive line, actually.
Suchin says IG users are the worst. They love Kyle so much and always claim it's bad luck. Kyle's the only dude to choke a playoff game before getting the ball. Laugh my ass off. 2.0 says it feels like our championship window is just slammed shut over the past 3 days. Being dependent on Trey is the opposite of where we should be. Well, we'll see what Trey's got. I think
it's dependent on both of them. They need them both. You just had 4 quarterbacks get knocked out this year. You need as much bodies as you can get. It wouldn't shock me if the Niners be like the first team that carries 5 quarterbacks into the regular season after this. That's scarring.
I thought Kinlaw had moved another man's strength. Man, he's not 100% healthy. They were trying to salvage his season and get him back on the field for the stretch run, but
he's never healthy, man.
Yeah.
You just can't. You can't. He's shown it. It's over now. It's done. They're not going to pick up his 5th-year option.
He'll be here next year, though, and give him an off season and see what he's like week 1.
Of course he's going to be here next year. Why would you cut him? It makes no sense. But, yeah.
You can't. But at the same time, I don't think you just pencil him in as a starter. You got to look at nose tackle as an open spot. Bring in some competition.
At this point, he reminds me of what the Raiders did with Cleveland Farrell a few years ago. He's pretty much just going to be the early down rotational guy that adds in as a run support who you hope gets strength. And then until you can show that maybe he gets pass effective downs or if, other guys aren't proving to be adequate as a pass rusher, then you start sprinkling in. But I think that's his role, 15 to 20 snaps a game.
Ryan Hensley says, why is Brock Purdy super durable and Trey Lance has to prove he can stay healthy? How durable would Brock be running 13 times a game? Did John or Kyle actually use the phrase super durable for? He did, didn't they? Yeah, I don't understand that. It's like
because it's through his career. It's his first real injury throughout his career.
It's his second.
All the games he's played in college.
He injured his freaking. I don't know. To me, I'm a little worried about Brock's durability. He's smaller than me.
Get that right.
He hurt his oblique. He didn't miss any time, but he hurt his oblique, and then I don't know, man. I don't think that's fair to say. It seems like he's gotten hurt twice in 8 games. How durable is he?
Got injured one game. He's gotten hurt in the second one. Trey Lance has a broken finger. He's gotten his hurt foot. He's got a hurt knee. Yeah, Trey Lance is definitely more fragile to me. But that's because it's like, the way Kyle runs him. That's why.
I'm not victim blaming here. I'm not victim blaming the way the Niners do. I feel like they're victim blaming. These are the victims. He's a victim, these quarterbacks. I think. My opinion. I didn't play football, though. John B says, I took it as Kyle is hopeful 6 months will be a full recovery for Purdy to set a positive tone, but Kyle and Lynch both know Trey is QB1 for next season. I didn't take it that way at all. I took it that way as we better have – we need Brock so much that we're going to just demand that it happens. We got Brock. Brock's going to be good. Brock, you're going to be good.
That's assuming he's going to be healthy by that time, man. You still don't know, man. How many times have we already seen so many players on this team just wait, he was supposed to come back by now. Wasn't Jimmy supposed to be back last week too?
What happened with that? What happened with that, right? I thought Juszczyk or McCaffrey had QB next. No, I thought it would be, that's another thing.
I want to see that.
When what's his face? Josh Johnson went down, the Niners could have gone to McCaffrey, Debo, Wildcat. They could have done something. Instead, they just hand it off every time. If that's all you're going to do, just take a knee. You know what I'm saying? Either actually try to compete, Kyle, and do something creative because you're a genius, or just take a freaking knee. Like, what is the point of just handing off every time? That's my question. Where was that wildcat? Because you have McCaffrey and Debo. Like, if any team could do a wildcat with no quarterback and make it effective, that's it. That's the combo I want to see. And you didn't do it? Is it even in your playbook? I want to know. You should have just taken knees, man. Because Trent Williams got in a fight and he's going to get fined and all this stupid stuff. I'm just saying, just take a knee if that's what you're going to do. Not impressed.
Once I saw Purdy throw that little 2-yard screen, and me and my cousin just screamed loud like, "Oh my God, he is hurting!" At that point I was like, "Just pull him out, run wildcat, run use check." Because I didn't even know McCaffrey was an option until I read.
They should have ran wildcat. They should have ran the wildcat.
I was screaming, put Usyk back there. Just do something. Because number one, it's more entertaining at least, and number two, it's like, dude, you're just gonna risk this guy. He doesn't have anything to prove. He's already proven enough. Just the fact he went out there for that one series.
They should have ran wildcat. I mean, we've seen Debo throw passes. We've seen McCaffrey throw passes. Jawan Jennings was a quarterback in high school. Usyk was a quarterback in high school. Where was this? You don't have that package, do you? Double B Studio says, when I got on other YouTube channels, I asked, is this team more finesse or physical? And they all said physical when it turned finesse with McCaffrey. To McCaffrey's credit, he played really physical in the NFC Championship game. I'll give him that. I like McCaffrey.
They're not finesse. You think they're finesse?
They want to be physical, but I don't know, man. I feel like they have an identity crisis because Kyle doesn't know what he wants to be. Are we paying the price for trading Buckner? I mean, they traded him pretty much straight up for someone that can't come close to him. And again, that was always the problem. You can't trade Buckner for a rookie. You can't. He's too good.
Worked out.
Revenge tour 10.0. Bosa needs help. Had 4 players with the Eagles had 4 players with double-digit sacks. I agree. He needs help. He sure does. All right, moving on. The Niners need to add a quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo not coming back. Brock Purdy won't be ready until training camp at the earliest. And even Trey Lance won't necessarily be ready for the first day of OTAs, although he could be. So the Niners need to sign a quarterback, and they probably need to draft one too. Any names that come to mind? I could throw some out there. There's Jared Stidham. There's Taylor Heineke. Okay, there's Nick Mullins, C.J. Beathard. Who else am I thinking? Gardner Minshew,
Jacoby Brissett, Derek Carr. Derek Carr might be an agent, but he might be too much.
Derek Carr.
Ugh. As much as I don't like the cat from my understanding of him, he actually would be pretty good in this offense.
He'd get hurt.
How? He's never been hurt, except until he broke his back.
He's never played for Kyle Shanahan.
Okay, well, we're all screaming about, not we all, but there was a talk about Brady because he's always durable.
He's never played for Kyle.
I think, well, Kyle, one thing.
Kyle's lucky he didn't coach Brady because then his legacy would be the guy that got Brady hurt, the guy that ended Brady's career. I'm not giving a Kyle a pass on this. If he wants to act like this is bad luck, I'm going to ridicule him about his track record of getting quarterbacks hurt. I'm going to.
No, you can't give him a pass at all. It's way too here's the thing, if this was the 1 year with all this ever happened and there was no prior experience of this, then yes, I'm giving him a full pass. But this has been going on since 2018, man. Since
Hoyer got obliterated. Beathard got obliterated. Jimmy came in and stayed healthy for 5 games. Then Jimmy came in, blew out his knee. Then Mullins, the Mullins Experience. Mullins eventually got his elbow ripped apart. Jimmy got injured 7 times. 7 times in 61 starts with the 49ers. 7. Trey's gotten injured 3 times in 4 or 5 starts. Brock twice in 8 starts. Beathard, I never saw a guy take so much punishment in 12 starts. Josh Johnson, not 0 starts. 1 concussion. Not funny. And it's a coincidence. So the Niners need to just keep bringing in quarterbacks because it's you think running backs get injured. Quarterbacks are
yeah.
So, I don't know. Minshew, maybe. Stidham, fine. I like the guy from UCLA, but they got to look at late round picks, right? They don't have anyone they could take in the top. They don't have a top 100 pick.
I think now if you're a 49ers, you got to draft a quarterback every year at this point. Draft one. So I think the plan this year is add one of those vet quarterbacks who won't cost you more than 4.5, and then draft a quarterback. I don't care what round. Draft anyone. Spend them all.
Just count on the fact that Kyle Shanahan doesn't really do anything special to protect them, and just keep drafting them. But it's all right. Treat them like running backs. Or we're counting on them to get hurt. So we'll just draft them. That's fine, I guess. If it works. If they can find 3 more Brock Purdy's, they'll be fine. Should be able to do it, right? I'm sure they can do it.
I would love Jacoby Brissett though on this offense. He can't move so much, but he's capable. I mean, he played pretty well last year. You know, he was throwing bombs, throwing nice dimes to Murray. Has a nice boneheadedness to him. That's just like, what is this guy doing? You know, he's like bottom tier, like starting level, but that's why he's a backup. He'll be.
What about Minshew?
He'll buy for like 5 games.
What about Minshew?
I like Jacoby better.
Minshew was pretty bad with the Eagles this year. He looked pretty bad. What about Stidham? The Niners got to remember what he did to them. Stidham looked nice.
I think Stidham's going to go back to the Raiders no matter what.
How about someone with a similar skill set to Trey? How about Tyler Huntley?
Tyler Huntley would be solid.
I like Tyler Huntley. For the price. Tyler Huntley reminds me of DTR. 6'1", Pac-12 quarterback, athletic, accurate, maybe not a huge arm. Good player.
Probably
I would bring him in.
2.5, 3.
Do you think did he do enough to get paid though? I don't know.
I mean, I think if you're the 49ers, when you have this cap space, and it's like, you know, what's like a nice like standard baseline if you're a backup quarterback? Like what, like
$1 million?
Really, like $1 million? I mean,
yeah.
I think when you know your
the veteran minimum
history, you want to give them like 2.5 or something like that, and maybe even at this point, if you're the Niners, you're giving these backups something incentive based that kicks it up an extra $500,000 or more, because if you're those backups, you're probably thinking, you know what, I might get in considering these guys, so why not?
Well, there's no guarantee that this backup makes the team, because the Niners are saying they have 2 starters, Brock and Trey, and there's a chance that they won't carry a third quarterback. The third quarterback will be on the practice squad or something.
They've ran a third quarterback every year though.
What's that?
They've ran 3 quarterbacks every year though. Like in terms of like they've accepted them. I don't.
Yeah. They could. They did this year. They did this year. They could. They should. I mean, I don't think this is the team that should be going with 2, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, 2019 they had 3. 2018 they had 3.
That's
2020 3.
That's
so
true.
Kyle always locks in 3.
He should. Maybe he should go with 4.
They're going to lock in 3, and they're going to put someone that they know
a 4th on the practice squad. Okay, so they have to have 2 running back quarterbacks. They have to add 2 quarterbacks. One in the draft, one in free agency. Maybe a 5th. Maybe they'll have 5 just for the offseason.
The draft, the draft goes into draft. Put your 6th round pick, 5th round pick, who's a quarterback. Maybe that's the trick. Draft a quarterback in the 5th round, so they always hit those gems, and maybe that's going to be the trick. You know, everyone always touts it. So put that guy in the practice squad. Tyler Huntley, whoever the hell you have, that's going to be your backup, because between Trey and Brock, so that way, like any of those 2 get hurt, whatever, you always have like a good contingency for either or whoever is the starter if they both go down.
I'm going to make the case that the Niners should draft Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I don't watch that much college football, but I do watch UCLA, and I know that he was on, UCLA is a decent team. They have some good players. The running back was great. Brock Purdy played with a great running back in college, Breece Hall. But the DTR's wide receivers were nothing special. He basically put up good numbers in college without playing with a bunch of NFL wide receivers. If he were on the Niners, the talent level around him would be so much greater than what he's ever faced. I think you could kind of elevate him the way the Niners elevated Purdy. And I think you could probably get him late in the draft. I don't even know if he's invited to this. He's not even invited to the Senior Bowl, is he? He's like a shrine game guy, which means it's like 7th round pick, right? Yeah. So, I mean, why not? You could take 2 quarterbacks in round 7. Anyway.
I don't think anyone would blame if they did that at this point. I mean, shoot. They're going to – but I think we can pretty much – I think both on agreement when they say – when Kyle says, no, we're not interested in a veteran or something like that. And it's like, well, first of all, that's bullshit, because you definitely have to. You don't have a quarterback for OTAs yet. We don't know. Trey says 4 weeks, but you don't know.
So wait a second. Remember when Jimmy Garoppolo was playing well right before he got hurt? There was that report that he was about to get this mega contract extension. Then he got hurt, and now it's like the Niners like, we don't want him. He's gone. What the hell happened? Was that baloney to begin with? Or so why have the Niners all of a sudden, after clinging to him like a security blanket for years, all of a sudden they're like, he's dead too? Like what changed? What changed?
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy. Okay, yeah, right. Because they're living in the reality of Brock Purdy's coming back in 6 months. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen, and he's going to be fine. Why even address any other possible reality than that? Right, of course. Right, because they're so optimistic. I love it.
I think
we'll see what happens.
Too with Jimmy, it was like this guy got injured again, and that's after like Kyle. It's like you're driving your bucket car, the last one. It's like, it's finally broken down. Let me try this new one. It's like, whoa, this is what I've been missing out on. All right, later. That's probably Kyle Shanahan with Jimmy. He's just tired, and it's like as much as he loves him, that they always tout about it. I think he's like, now he's done, and he's not under contract now like he was last year. So it's easier to say like, yeah, we don't need to have him speak or say goodbyes and none of that crap.
Kyle better keep his quarterbacks healthy next year, or else this team's not going to make the playoffs. And then I don't know what's going to happen to him if he misses the playoffs. Slant Bone says, I'm so mad. Go ahead and stick with Brock. Defenses figure him out next year, and now you have a quarterback you alienated in Trey. This franchise will never get it. He's upset. Year 2 of Jimmy's for sure out of here. I hope so, right? I hope so. He's still on the team, technically. Grant, stop making excuses for Kinlaw. I never liked him, and you were right from the beginning. He is an overrated bum. He's not a bum. He's not overrated. Everyone knows exactly what he is, and everyone's just piling on him now. And it's like, man, I made my points about him years ago. I don't need to say it again. We all know what happened. And it's like, I was really rooting for him. People are kind of dancing on his grave right now. It's not fun. I mean, he wasn't like Jamarcus Russell, who like totally pissed away his opportunity. He wanted this to work. He tried his best. And I always felt that it was the Niners that put this on. You gave him Buckner's jersey number? The fuck? Why would you do that to him? That was stupid. Why would you do that to him? Have some understanding of human dynamics. Like that puts a lot of pressure on a young man.
I think I remember writing too. Whoever the pick was at that time, because I had suspected that it was going to be Kinlaw in the first place. So I pretty much said whoever they replace with that first round pick, especially if it's a D-line, if it's Kinlaw, then that's whether it's right or not, he's going to get him fairly compared to Buckner. And then they gave him this number, really like making sure like it was the same one. It's like
tone deaf. 2.0 says, I just really hope that Purdy's back for the rematch versus the Eagles. For that reason, I hope it's not week 1, as great as Lance is week 1. Oof, that's true. They're going back to Philly next year, right? In the regular season. Vid out there with 300-pound QB, that just might be the durability Kyle needs, says Todd Anderson. Hey, man, Kyle find a way. Double B Studio says, I can't afford TV since I gave you all my money. I missed the game. Did we win? No. Okay.
What are the bars?
Eric's, I felt they shot down Jimmy Talks quick. I'm guessing they asked Jimmy to come back last week, and he told them, no, I ain't ready, pissing off Kyle. Oh, interesting. Is that the reason that the Niners didn't get a better backup than Josh Johnson? They were like, Jimmy will come back. We don't have to get Cam Newton or Colin Kaepernick. Jimmy will come back. And then Jimmy's like, yeah, I'm coming back. I'll come back. Hey, guys, I can't. I wanted to, though. I really wanted to. Sorry.
Who was even available that they were going to get that could have been better than Josh Johnson? That much better.
Cam Newton? I mean, Cam Newton. Better than Josh Johnson? Josh Johnson. Yeah, dude, I like Josh Johnson. Local hero. But that's yeah, but there's degrees of screwed.
Okay, instead of they're screwed 100%, they're only screwed 85% Cam Newton.
I mean, I don't think no offense to Josh. I like Josh. I don't think Josh really gives you a chance.
No, of course not. No fourth-string quarterback does. No guy who just got signed in December will.
Cam Newton doesn't give you a chance? Maybe not. David Baker says, Buckner, truly enjoyed the chat with your father. Inspirational. I can't believe thank you. I can't believe the Niners are still stuck on that topic. Like, they got rid of him 3 years ago, but they never replaced him. Like, they have a gaping hole in that position. Poopy Pants, been waiting for you. Crazy thing is, when you look at how much this team has paid Lance versus Jimmy per win, Jimmy is a steal. Lance makes $10 million to start with his bonus. Insane. Yeah, the Niners really found a way to make Trey Lance expensive. Tyler Huntley would easily beat out Lance, says Gizmo Maltese. Okay, well, bring him in. I like Tyler Huntley. I like Lance too. Niners surviving Kyle Shanahan or leaving Levi's. Niners quarterbacks surviving Kyle Shanahan or leaving Levi's. I think that's funny. Surviving Kyle Shanahan. Isn't that is that the Michael Jackson or the R. Kelly? It's the R. Kelly one, right? Surviving R. Kelly. Damn, spell check Buckner, Tyrod Taylor. He's in his 30s. Can we get someone in their 20s? It's a little old. I'd go a little younger. I like Tyler Huntley.
Oh, this is the Giants. Is he with the Giants?
Yeah, I don't know. Jay Talks has got a clip of you from a month or two ago that had me cracking up. When we signed Josh Johnson, you was like, "Nah, it's all good, guys. We got Josh and guys. The next three super chats." I mean, didn't I say sign Cam Newton at the time? I hope I'm not being inconsistent. Draft DTR. Draft DTR. Does he even want to play? I don't know. Yeah, draft DTR. John Lynch blamed league for not enough roster. Yeah, that was rich. One more? No, yeah. Is Purdy getting the Jimmy Garoppolo treatment when Jimmy Garoppolo 5 games 2017? Maybe.
Yeah.
I did sort of make that parallel. All right, I got another question for you. How do you think the Niners are going to replace DeMeco Ryans? Kyle Shanahan spoke about it today, and he said he would really like to keep the entire defensive staff together. He doesn't want to change the scheme. And if he brings in someone from the outside, he essentially wants this person to run what DeMeco and Saleh had been running. That's interesting. So it's like you bring in someone from the outside and like, hey, I know that you're like you do stuff and you like stuff, but you're going to do this. But we want you. But we don't want you to do what you do. But we want you. But don't do that shit that you did over before. So who do you think is going to go for that? Like, how do you do that?
The Rams did that with Raheem Morris. I know McVay did that.
How'd that work?
It led to a Super Bowl. It led to a Super Bowl with Raheem.
Good point.
They beat the team we covered. So
that's true.
It worked well. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, yeah, I remember when.
I forgot about that.
I remember when Robert Saleh first became Jets head coach. It was like, man, Saleh was great, man. And especially after that 2020 year, it's like he did better. Is it going to be DeMeco? Whoever, like DeMeco, like, you know, let's pump the brakes in there, call plays, let's see how it goes. And then it went lights out. He took an elite defense and transcended it. Yeah. So back then I was more skeptical. Like, is DeMeco going to be anywhere near as great? If they can get just a notch or two below, that's a win. But he was like notches above. This time it's like, all right, he's better than Saleh. There's no way in hell I see they're going to find a defensive coordinator that's going to like sniff the same type of like elite style of DeMeco Ryans. But the bright side is like they have a ton of talent on defense, so it'll be pretty tough to really mess that up. You know, it'd be pretty tough. So you're just hoping that you get some semblance of that, because this is a hire that's really, I think, after the quarterback conversation, the quarterback, figuring out process, this is probably the most important decision they're going to make all offseason, because the defense since 2019 has really carried the success of this team, no matter what. You know, everyone says 2019, that defense, especially defensive line, is why they went to the Super Bowl. 2020, that defense was really the reason why they were competitive. Last year, you know, if it wasn't for, you know, the defense playing as well, and then eventually Debo turned up, and then this year, so whoever they get has to really be able to take on all that pressure. You know, we just talked about, you know, with Kimon Buckner, this defensive coordinator is going to face even more, because you just had a defense who had the least amount of points in the league, 16.8 allowed per game. And whoever this guy is has to really not tinker too much. You know, Kyle's been doing this with every defensive coordinator, with Saleh and Ryans, but that's because he hired within. An outside source is going to be tough. So that's why when you have Vic Fangio at the top of the list, it's like, how's that going to work? He's a 3-4 base, and I understand, you know, base defense isn't, you know, prominent as much now, but there's still going to be, you know, some type of tinkering that he's going to want to do to really feel comfortable.
I don't understand how you say, like, I want to get the best coach, but he has to run what I want him to run. Like, you imagine interviewing Vic Fangio for the job, and Vic Fangio lays out his vision for the defense, and Kyle's like, nah, I want you to do this. Can you do this? It's like, oh, you're telling Vic Fangio how to run defense? What are you talking about right now?
So quarterback to run the zone scheme.
Yeah. So who are you like ruling out by creating these stipulations? It doesn't seem that smart. Like, if you get an opportunity to get Vic Fangio, you just turn over the defense to him and say, do whatever you want to do. It's Vic Fangio. But that's not how the Niners are approaching it. They want to keep this intact. They have a system in place that they like. So it's like, to me, if you can't get Fangio, wouldn't you want to get someone like Brian Flores? Isn't Brian Flores a great defensive coordinator? Isn't he a really good one?
I would like him.
I mean, he's available. Steve Wilkes is available. Like, these are guys you could get if you just told them, like, I trust you. You can do your job. But I don't know. I mean, Kyle's good with coaches. Maybe he'll find an up-and-coming guy who can fit in the parameters and be the next DeMeco or Robert Saleh. But it just seems like he could probably pick from whoever he wanted if he was a little more open-minded. I don't know.
I like Steve Wilkes better than Vic Fangio for some reason. Maybe because of the job he did as interim head coach. And to me, the fact that he had that defense already playing at a pretty nice level, because he's not unfamiliar with having like a decent array of talent. You know, he has J.C. Horn. He had Brian Burns. He had who's the name? They had the defensive lineman who's really good. They had like several like really impactful defensive players. So he did well with that front. And then when he becomes an interim head coach, you get to see his leadership abilities that really united that team to really be in the running for the NFC South division. I know it sucked, but still, the fact that they were there it's pretty crazy. So to me, I see there's some parallels, some similarities that you've seen from your last two coordinators in Saleh and Ryans, and that's why I think I would really like him the most. And plus, you know, he's not gonna change like scheme and not do a bunch of tinkering like you would like maybe like a Fangio, who might even demand it because he is a guy who probably would feel that way. So I think I would like Wilkes in that sense.
J Talk says 80 million decoy in Debo. CMC became more relevant. Yeah, let's look real quick at Debo Samuel's contract, just for the sake of it. I'm curious to see like what his cap number is going to be this upcoming season. Debo Samuel this year, just 8 million, not too bad. Next year, of course, is 28.5 million. Holy macaroni! But this year, not too bad. I want to look up Eric Armstead just for the sake of it. Eric Armstead, cap number 2023. Go!
20?
23.9.
Or off.
Oh!
He's got to be
That
healthy.
is, yikes.
He's got to be healthy.
23.9 million for Eric Armstead.
Got to be healthy.
That's tough. David Baker says Fangio has the gravitas to deal with a locker room of vets. Dude, Fangio's the best. They should get him. Thoughts on Jimmy Ward saying Kyle Shanahan played nickel or bench? Did you see that? He was like,
oh yeah, that was funny as hell.
That was funny as hell. So he's like, I want to play safety, and Kyle's like, oh, so you want to ride the bench, huh? And Jimmy was like, yeah, I do, man. Put me on specialty. Calling his bluff. Like, yeah, make your defense work worse, man.
Jimmy actually says before he talks to Kyle, he says like, honestly, after that KC game, or even before that, he says like, honestly, I wouldn't have minded riding the bench. It's like, I'm getting paid $9 million to run the sideline. Hell yeah. He was like, He was all like that, and then he was like, he went there just go make his last pitch. Like, yo, what's up with my safety spot? So he's like. And that's when Jimmy Ward goes and says, like, yes, this is where the business comes in. Because he also mentions that he's like, I thought Samuel Womack was playing hell of ball at slot nickel. So I'm like, okay, if he's playing good already, why do I need to go there? And he said, because I'm getting paid $9 million. When you can't be justify having that much money on the
so it's when he says like you want to ride the bench, like yeah, go ahead, dude, go put $9 million on the bench. Try. I love Jimmy Ward so much. He does say eventually in that
conversation that he says like, how about you take 48 hours? We'll come back to this or something like that. And like, no, I already know how I feel, so like that. So I guess Jimmy eventually just simmered down, and he ends up talking about like he reached out to like his personal people and stuff like that. And then eventually he rocked out. He said he lost a lot of weight too, which makes sense because you got to be bulkier if you want to be like a hard hitting safety, and you got to really be light and lean quicker.
Sign Alex Smith for 1 year. No, not going to happen. He's retired. He doesn't want to play football anymore.
Alex Smith.
No. Double B Studio says, are you going to travel in the offseason? If so, can you blog about it? Which city would you return to from this season to continue the adventures of Cohn? I am going to. Absolutely am. My wife and I want to take a trip in the next couple of weeks, get out of town. So we're trying to think of places that are warm. Might hit up Miami. I don't know. We'll see. We were looking at Cabo, and it's really expensive. So expensive right now.
What? Cabo's not that expensive.
What days were we were looking like the next month or so? Cabo.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. I want to go back to Mexico City, actually. I want to go to Mexico City, and I want to go deeper into Latin America. The problem is neither me or my wife really speak Spanish, so I know, we're going to get the gringo rates for everything. But that, it's all right. They're like, oh, you don't speak Spanish? Let me charge you twice as much. Yeah, well, I'll take that. I guess I deserve it.
Someone would be cool. Someone might try to like throw a nice little curveball. It depends.
Yeah, but that's in Mexico. In Mexico City, I feel like I just handed cash to people. I didn't understand anyone, and I wasn't really tripping about how much it was because everything was like $2. So I just kept handing cash to people, and they would give me back whatever. And I was like, all right, well, either they gave me the right amount or not. Like I'm not tripping about it. Whatever. It's the cost of doing business. Highlight Kyle saying no chance Jimmy comes back. LOL. Who is QB1, Brock or Lance? Have they given up on Lance? I think QB1 is supposed to be Brock, but he could shut himself down for a year and a half. We'll see what happens. Thoughts? Jimmy Ward saying, "Oh, we got you." Let me make sure we didn't miss anyone else. Oh, Fangio, Gravitas, Signed Duran, Payne, and Yannick Ngakoue. Oh, I love that. That would be great. What do you think of Yannick?
Payne, not Yannick.
Okay,
Payne,
fair enough. Yannick was good a few years ago. Corey Soto says it's too early to know about any feelings Lance. It's too early to know, but any feelings Lance will surprise people this year. I like to think he's been waiting all season, watching this ish. It's just too bad. Like, how much can you improve when you're rehabbing? Hard.
At this point, it's not even about he just needs to get in, man. He just needs to get the real practice and game reps now. It's going to be the same story.
But it's not like he's been like working on his throwing motion. He hasn't. None of that. So, shout out. Saw that shout out from Ward Grant. You're shining. I love Jimmy Ward. Shout out Jimmy Ward. Big Tone 707. Yay, go Jimmy Ward. Sit on the bench and don't work while you're getting paid millions of dollars while others have to work. Blah 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 blah. Okay.
Hey,
More news. It's like, dude, are you really gonna get on? People get on players for like just, engaging in the leverage game with their coach. Like, why not? Call him on his bluff. Put me on the bench. You're not gonna put me on the bench. Don't. Why are you even talking about that?
Why not choose trying to screw you?
You're not gonna put Jimmy Ward on the bench. It's stupid. So why even say it? All right. Bobby Slowick is interviewing to be the offensive coordinator of the Houston Texans, the team that DeMeco Ryans is coaching. So we were wondering, who's he going to take? Well, obviously, he's going to take the top offensive coach from the 49ers. Bobby Slowick was their pass game coordinator. How do you think this impacts the 49ers? I mean, really, their assistant coaching staff has just been plundered the last few years. Every year, someone new.
Every year, because they keep turning out. They're like a head coach factory machine. That's the one thing, at least I think that's probably the greatest thing about Kyle Shanahan is the way he churns out all these assistant coaches.
Agreed.
To get magnificent opportunities. That's easy. Like great. He's like the Super Bowl champion in that. Slowick's going to take it. Not unless he's like pulls a DeMeco Ryans and feels he's not ready. But I mean, he's already been with this team for like 2-3 years now. So I think he's going to take it. And now Kyle's going to be hard pressed to find another guy. He's starting to run out of people. Not starting. He's running out of people of who he's come up with in terms of who to bring back. And now that you have, was it Matt LaFleur, who's gone to the Rams to be their OC. So even if you wanted to bring him back into that same spot where he was the passing game coordinator, you're screwed on that sense. You're gonna have to step out of your boundaries and look outside again. Same thing you're doing defensive coordinator, but you're gonna have to do for your offensive staff, like you did to Anthony Lynn last year, which is also interesting to me. I know we mentioned Anthony Lynn. It's like, which one of these is actually going to go, and how many of them is Kyle Shanahan really going to let go? Because one of these is going to have to get promoted to the vacant offensive coordinator spot. That's what he did last year, right, with Mike McDaniel. He leaves it vacant on purpose. So if one of these guys are getting tapped on the shoulder by someone else, he'll let probably one of them go and then say, "You get this, you get the prestige, and you get the little $1.5 million promotion of salary." So I think Slowick is gone, and it's going to hurt Kyle because he talked about, I remember at one point about he spends like a couple months or so really like in the offseason getting down his method and trying to find like a rhythm with his new staff, especially because he didn't come up with them. So it's going to be a huge challenge, and I think this is why it's been playing a part and why the 49ers have been starting slow the last few years in the regular season.
Fair. It's a good point. And they'll probably – I mean, they could bring in someone like they brought in with Anthony Lynn last year. I think they could promote Clint Kubiak. Is that his name? Clint Clay? Is he Clay or Clint? How do you have two kids and name one Clint and one Clay? How do you do that?
Both with the K.
I don't understand that. Yeah. Also, what's up with like with people with last names that start with K's having kids and giving them first names that start with K's? Like, why are you flirting with that?
They like alliteration.
Sorry. Why do you go for the two? What's the middle name? Now I gotta know what your middle name is. Like, what? Cliff Kingsbury? Was it Kevin? Is your middle name Kevin? Anyway, I got a prediction. I think Bobby Slowick will be the offensive coordinator of Houston. I think he'll get fired within 2 years, and I think the Niners will have no problem replacing him because we saw even when they lost Mike McDaniel. I think the offense wasn't really clicking early on, but to your point, I think it was just because they were getting new guys sort of, their feet wet, whatever the phrase, getting new guys situated. Let's call it that. And then they got situated, and then it was like, goodbye, Mike McDaniel. It's Kyle Shanahan's production. He just needs people that he can delegate to, and it takes a little while for them to figure it out, but it's his freaking production. So all these knockoff Kyles that go throughout the league, Mike LaFleur, like, good job. He lasted 2 years, right, Mike?
Now he's the year before too in 2021 when LaFleur went gone. That offense was struggling. I remember what's wrong with the 49ers offense? It doesn't matter if Jimmy's in there or Trey's in there. The offense looks the same. So to me, it's like, all right, that's on Kyle. What's wrong with him? Oh, he always starts slow, but maybe it's different because that was the first year where they really had like double-digit coaching turnover combined, which is crazy. And they had double-digit coaching turnover again. I'm wondering if that's going to be the same. So I mean, if they can get under 10 coaches that really leave, that'd be a huge gain from both sides of the ball. That's where they've been at. Yeah, I think that's pretty much where it stemmed from. Just trying to get used to each other and learning how to coexist or work with each other.
Methodical 7 says Santa Clara PD needs to charge Kyle with 4 counts of attempted murder. Yikes. That's brutal. Gold-blooded says just got back from Cabo. Stay in San Jose. I'm trying to. I looked it up last night. It's looked very expensive. It's generally cheaper and only 20 minutes north of Cabo San Lucas. I would be trying to go to Cabo del San Jose del Cabo. That one.
Yeah, San Jose del Cabo is close to the airport anyways. But the Cabo San Lucas is more like the party scene, I would say.
I'm 35 years old.
I know.
Nothing makes you feel 35 more than going to a party. It's like, oh, damn, I'm hella old. Everyone's 10 years younger than me. Oh, yeah, okay. Got it. Yeah, I shouldn't be here.
So you don't want to go to Cabo San Lucas for my birthday in March? Okay.
I do. I'll hang out with people in their 20s just to feel young again. I want to feel young again. Joshua Wyatt says, Grant, can you edit together all the clips of you asking, can Kyle keep a third quarterback healthy? Then end it with a promo of your Kyle Gonna Kyle t-shirt. Man, I wish I could go back and find all the timestamps of me asking that question. But yeah, I did ask that.
That would take some real work.
Some digging in the crates. Asia Lee says, my views are not because of what you said about Kinlaw in the past. As I said before, I never liked Kinlaw from the beginning, so I'm not piling on or anything. Tell me why you think he's not overrated. I think everyone knows Kinlaw. I think everyone would say that Kinlaw's a bust at this point.
He's rated?
Everyone.
That's the thing. How can you call him overrated or underrated if he's never rated in the first place? That's how
I was saying Kinlaw was a bust like 2 years ago. It was edgy to say that then. Now, like, it's pretty much accepted. And
now there's like 5 clips of him getting double.
Yeah, man. Like, I don't like kicking people while they're down. I like kicking them while they're up. And he's down right now. So you know what? I'm done. I said what I needed to say. I hope I'm the best. But yeah, they needed a new nose tackle, like straight up. How about that? That's all you need to really say on this one. It's not working.
Probably let DJ Jones gone. Like they had no problem trying to match the Broncos. It's like at some point we got to get ROI. We got to see what he has, and we saw what he has, and what we saw is he still has an injury that's never going to recover, and the explosiveness. You can't be a nose tackle and not have some type of explosion. That's the thing.
Or high pad level. 3 months from now, we are completely ruling out a Jimmy G making a return. We are completely ruling out a Jimmy G making a return. He's not going to come back. I think he's going to be healthy when free agency starts, and someone's going to sign him. The Raiders. Bobby Johnson says the Niners should have Tristan Wirfs and Creed Humphrey on their offensive line. Instead, they drafted Javon Kinlaw and Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks is pretty good. But yeah, if they had Tristan Wirfs, they'd be much closer to the Eagles. They would be. Jovel Bennett says, yo, it's been a while. Picture this. Fire Kyle, hire Eric B. from KC, ramp up Trey, and grab our thoughts.
No.
Something about Eric B. I don't know. He's been interviewed a lot.
Why he gets interviews and no one wants
I don't
to
know.
touch him with that 80-foot pole.
Something about him. I feel like it's an Andy Reid production. It's the same thing. Andy Reid. I feel like it's an Andy Reid production.
Same thing with Peyton Manning, all his offensive coordinators, the Adam Gases of the world, and everyone, and Mike McCoy, everyone getting all those looks and everything. It just never works.
I'm interested in Steichen out of Philly because from just getting to know that team last week, a lot of people in Philly feel that he is the brains behind that operation instead of Sirianni.
Yeah, he is. He calls the plays.
Yeah, so I think he might be. He's from out here. Yeah, he's from Sac.
Sirianni's just the shit talker. That's pretty much all he is.
Pretty much. So I don't know. Steichen's interesting. If Fangio comes back, does he bring Donatel? They usually work together. I don't know where Donatel is right now.
Donatel?
I'll have to look that up. Grant, I would have loved you ask Kyle Shanahan at the presser what he has planned to do with all the timeouts he saved from the NFC Championship in the offseason. That is funny. I like that. Okay, moving on. More news. Anthony Lynn is being interviewed to become the new offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders. As we know, they have who's the guy from that used to be in the front office here that went over there? I forget his name. Martin Mayhew. Martin Mayhew, general manager over there, and they're sort of building their team to be in the Niners' image, very physical. So they're interviewing Anthony Lynn, who is a really good coach, experienced. I'm not surprised that an experienced good coach like Ron Rivera would be interested in Anthony Lynn. This would be a good hire for Washington. And how would you think this would impact the 49ers, losing Anthony Lynn? He was only here for a year.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to impact him much because he was pretty much what the the running backs coach and he like a kind of an offensive assistant. So, I mean, and he was there for a year. It's not like he was someone that Kyle Shanahan's always worked with and Kyle's relied upon. It was more so like he was someone who was to help band-aid a situation and hopefully that become like a small little plant that would end up growing one to root himself into the offense and really become a partner to Kyle. But yeah, I think if there's any guy who Kyle would have no problem leaving, it's going to be Anthony Lynn, because Slowick's someone he's had really worked in the past. He's been working with him. And I think that's pretty much where it's going to be at, because it's just because Lynch just has no ties like that with Kyle. So the two, yeah, that pretty much. I wonder if they don't. This is where it's really gonna be interesting. Who they want? They would probably prefer Anthony Lynn to leave, but it's almost like, you know what, are we gonna do Houston like that, D'Amico like that? But you know, like Kyle said today, it's like, hey, we're gonna do what's right for the 49ers first. So probably he might just let Lynn go and be like, sorry, D'Amico, we love you, but you can have anyone else but Slowick.
It felt to me like they brought in Anthony Lynn because Bobby Turner stepped away from the team, and they needed another running back coach. And then Turner came back, and so to keep Lynn, they would have to make him the offensive coordinator. And even if they did that, they couldn't make him the play caller. In Washington, he probably would call the plays and be the offensive coordinator. So it seems to me that if they want him and he does well in the interview, he's gone. There's nothing the Niners can do. I don't know that he necessarily. Again, I think they'll be okay without Anthony Lynn, even though he's a really good coach. He wasn't the offensive coordinator. He's not the play caller. They have Bobby Turner. I think they'll be okay without Anthony Lynn. That being said, I think he'd be a tremendous hire for Washington.
I think they can survive either or, but it's if you lose both, that's what's really going to be like the gut punch.
Well, yeah. Again, I think if you're looking for the Niners to start fast next year, this is the kind of stuff that hurts. Now, if they're going head to head with the Eagles, if it's just a 2-team conference, the Eagles, they could lose Shane Steichen this offseason. They could lose their offensive coordinator. They're going to lose a bunch of free agents. You know, they could have their own issues as well. LA, hold on, the Fangio thing about Donatel, I just saw he got fired as the Vikings defensive coordinator. So I would think absolutely they usually work together. Love the Kobe shirt.
Right on.
Fine, hire Bills OC as head coach, Ken Dorsey. Again, I like Steichen better. What Ken Dorsey didn't look so good in the playoffs.
No, they just run too much of that's a real finesse offense right there. They cannot.
Their offense is just Josh Allen runs around and makes plays, in my opinion. That's the offense.
Once I saw that game was snowing, I knew Cincinnati was going to win because they could actually run the ball and Buffalo could.
Right. That's right. If Purdy decides to go full TJ surgery and Trey is a lock for QB1, Niners have to fire Kyle, says Shreddy Murphy. He cannot be trusted. Open your eyes, York family. Man, they're putting a lot of pressure on Brock Purdy to save this season, man. A lot of pressure, just like they put.
That's probably going to also that injury's probably going to also save Kyle too in the future. If they, God forbid, they still end up failing, he's going to say, "Well, Kyle, I got injured. I tried my best," and he stays on.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you for your $5. I appreciate you, man. All right, moving on. Trent Williams at his locker clear out day was asked if he's going to come back, and he was like, "Yeah, that's a good question." You know, a lot this time of year, you know, I really do think about that stuff. So he didn't rule it out. And then Kyle Shanahan was asked about it today, and he said he'd be really surprised if Trent Williams wasn't pumped to be coming back and playing football within the next few weeks. So interesting. I mean, if Kyle says he fully expects Trent to come back, I expect it too. But I guess it looks like Trent is now on a year-to-year basis if he comes back this year. So it seems like the Niners have to have a plan for the future at left tackle, not to mention right tackle as well. What do you think?
Yeah, 1,000%. I actually put it on my top. Once I saw that video, and then I read the Eric Branch article because he's the one that really published it first. That's when I already put my topic. I was like, oh shoot, man, because that was actually something I thought about. Honestly, after I saw him get ejected, I was thinking like, man, was that the last time we've seen him? Because you know, that's
was that I'm going out, I'm done. Like let's just go out with a bang kind of thing.
And maybe he's tired of this.
Find this, like, man, suspend this. I'm out. I retire. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't think he's going to retire, but you never know. You never know. It's been pretty much like, what is it, 2 out of 3 years now? You've had prominent offensive linemen, you know, not ducking, but leaving out, you know, Joe Staley first and eventually Alex Mack, both who kept everything under wraps, and the Niners actually knew both. So I wonder about Trent. So I think regardless what you got to do is it's imperative now. You got to get his replacement. You know, you have to get his replacement and just let him sit, whether he's going to start. It doesn't matter. You need to find him in the draft, whatever it's in free agency. It doesn't matter. You need to figure something out. maybe even double dip in the draft, because you cannot afford to be like, all right, we're going to put our trust in just one rookie and hopefully he wins it or something. You have to have something, and you have to have multiple things, and it's already going to be hard enough to have your right tackle figured out with Mike and Glinchey hitting the free agent market. So you have a lot of work on your hand with that offensive line on both corners, because right now I think it probably behooves you to really find that backup just to at least get them ready and primed. It's the same way you did with Aaron Banks, even though Aaron Banks was a little unfortunate with the injuries and stuff, but that's something at least you can do. You can warm up these rookies to take over for the next start to be the start of the next year. Brandon
West says they said the same thing with Staley. They did.
Yep.
Staley was contemplating retirement, and they're like, no, he's coming back. He's coming back. Because even if Trent, they don't want people to know what they need to get and address. Like they went out and got Trent Williams before people knew that they needed to get Trent Williams. So I guess it's hard to say what's going to happen with Trent. Just because Kyle says he's confident he's coming back, that doesn't really mean anything. I just want to say something real quick. If Trent Williams retires and Brock Purdy doesn't play next year and the Niners miss the playoffs, they got to get rid of Kyle Shanahan. It's not, I'd get rid of him now, but if he misses the playoffs next year, no excuses. No excuses. So, and it's like, he shouldn't miss it even without Trent Williams. 7 teams in the freaking conference make the playoffs. 7. You should be able to make it. But I'm okay. I understand not firing a coach who just went to the NFC Championship game. I understand that, although I still think they should. But if you miss the playoffs with this team, it's not even a question, in my opinion. There's not even a decision to make. Not even a decision to make. Like, Doug Peterson missed the playoffs in 2020, 3 years after winning the Super Bowl. They fired him. Like, yeah, that was the right thing to do. Dude, they were right to do that.
That was more unique, though. There was roster locker room politics. It was pretty much, hey, is it me or Carson Wentz? And they chose Carson.
I mean, there could be locker room politics if they miss the playoffs next year. They haven't missed the play. They could go 16-1 next year. Let's see what happens. Saul Goodman says Kyle Shanahan loves injured quarterbacks. He has an excuse every season. He loves injured quarterbacks or he loves injuring quarterbacks? I'm sorry. Jeff says, hope you're doing good, Grant. What would be your ranking order? What would be your ranking order be of who should be the DC? Mike Zimmer, Vic, Wilkes, other. Really like Zimmer to replace D'Amico. Players hate Zimmer. Players hate Zimmer. Yeah, I'm good with him. Fangio 1, Wilkes 2. What about Flores? Isn't Flores? People think he's a jerk. What is it about Flores? A lot of people don't like him.
But Flores, actually gets like a good rap with like players.
Yeah.
Again, this is why I like Steve Wilkes. Not to really like shite on Vic Fangio like that, but it's really like that's why I like Steve Wilkes, especially after seeing the year he did with the Panthers. And again, there's proof, and it's like he's someone who can really get with his players and talk with them and not be like so much of an a-hole and stuff like that. So he can scheme. So I feel like it wouldn't be bad. There shouldn't be too much transition or much tinkering if he comes on. So that's the way I look at it.
Hold on. I just went past this one.
Jamila
Jamila13 says, the last show you had with your dad was the best show yet. Had to watch it twice, gem after gem after gem. Yeah, thanks. He was on fire. I was just okay. Bobby Slowick for DC. Yeah, just put him on the wrong side of do that. I like that. John Wayne.
Yeah.
All right, last thing. John Lynch was asked about Emmanuel Mosley today. He says he's been practicing at the facility like presently and that they really want to bring him back. To me, even though he's a corner coming off a torn ACL, which makes me a little scared, I think this guy is one of the best players on the team, and he's in his prime, and I would bet on him. I think this re-signing Emmanuel Mosley should be the Niners' number one priority in the offseason in terms of their own guys. Do you think I'm crazy on that one?
Hell no. I love that one. I was saying that even when he got first hurt, I was like, bring him back. Nope, bring him back. Bring him back after that Carolina game when he's getting carried off. I'm like, nope, bring him back. And look, Diamador Lenore finished the season strong. I know he gets a lot of slack, which I love that Eric Cocker loves to like tell people like people just hate DBs and they don't understand. They really hate DBs. They don't understand it. Like to me, he plays the position pretty well. He's always there. He might not have he doesn't really have playmaking ability on a ball, but not many corners do. That's what separates the good from the great.
That's true.
So overall, he's fine. He's pretty solid. But yeah, 1,000%. Bring back Emmanuel Mosley. How much it'll cost?
He's fine, but you'd rather have him at nickel than outside. You'd rather have a better starting corner than Diamador Lenore. Although he did improve tremendously as the season went on, I'll give him that. He did.
I still would really like to see Samuel Womack back in the slot. Really, that should have been it. I like pretty much.
Womack? Okay.
You have a Mosley. Here's the thing. Diablo Lenore is definitely gonna have a spot somewhere. So it's pretty much like, all right, outside nickel, Diablo Lenore, compete for one of these two. Whoever plays poorest, that's where you're gonna go. Mosley's not ready. Which, you know what? I think that's what it's gonna be, because Mosley's probably not gonna be ready by training camp. That'd be probably foolish to rush him back. You know, are we Jason Verrett, anyone? Like, come on, let's be careful here. I'm not saying he's on that caliber of like bad luck. That we're talking about injuries. Jason Verrett, my God, always gets bad luck. But anyways, so I think that's where you really want to look at it. It's pretty much like he might get the nod, but ultimately whoever's the one that's not more ready, that's where Diablo is going to go to. But yes, bring back Emmanuel Mosley, solid corner. You can never have enough. And at that point, you pretty much have, obviously Ward, Womack, Lenore, Mosley, because Ambry Thomas, I mean, God, he's pretty much like just a special teams guy at this point, right? And then who knows? I think it's pretty much it.
Is he? I mean, he's pretty much inactive at this point. I don't know what Ambry Thomas does for this team.
He's just pretty much a special teams guy now.
But yo, when he fell out of favor, I knew that the Niners were in trouble, because I saw a stat somewhere that like there's been a long streak of Super Bowl winners that have had at least one former Michigan football player on the field. I think it's been a long streak. Every single Super Bowl winning team has had one Michigan guy. Now a lot of them have been Brady, but once Ambry Thomas, the only Michigan dude on the Niners, and once he fell, I think the Niners had no chance. That's it, right there.
Who was last year?
So,
Rams.
Who's the guy on the Rams?
And who was going to be this year? Chiefs? I don't know. I can't think of.
I don't know who it was in the Rams. I forget.
That's something to look at.
I'll look it up.
That'd be funny.
Trenton says, I played ball in high school with Purdy. Buddy never got hurt. Kyle not taking responsibility. Kyle gonna Kyle merch. I think it's time.
Damn,
Kyle's
you
gonna
gotta
Kyle.
love your former high school teammates. I love that.
I love that. I love that. All right, last one. Jimmy Ward went on IG Live last night. I don't have Instagram, so I missed it like a boomer. Jose saw it. Apparently he shouted me out, but he said a bunch of stuff. Like, can you tell people what he said?
Yeah.
Mostly about me.
He said
Brandon Graham on the Eagles. Sorry. That just okay, let me start this over.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, let me start this over. So Jimmy Ward went on IG Live last night and said a bunch of stuff. I didn't see it because I'm not on Instagram and I'm 35. Too old. You, in your 20s, understand how to use these social media platforms. Please tell the good people what he said.
Yeah, it was entertaining and informative. Now, he didn't take any shots at anyone. It was just pretty much like an aired out, because he repeatedly said like, "Oh, there's no will. It's just the business, man. It's just, it's pretty much just like a reaffirming of the business side, basically about how it all started." He really goes in depth. He talked about 2019, about how 2019 was similar to this year in terms of, yeah, I got hurt beginning of the year, and then I lost my safety spot. 2019, T. Moore. 2022, Deshaun Gibson. Except this time, Deshaun Gibson didn't get hurt like Tavarius Moore.
True.
So eventually, like, I was relegated to nickel.
True.
So pretty much he knew about that. And then, he comes back out, he plays. And he said he was actually at a low point when he came back and injured on the very first play against Carolina. He said, I had no tears to shed. He really felt low. He felt defeated, and, rightfully so. I don't blame him. But then, after the Chiefs game where he's getting dusted and beat, he's like, man, I'm getting, cooked out here. So he was feeling demoralized from that. And he's like, he's like, I'm good. I'm a good nickel, but not like an indefinite nickel. So that's where he goes, and he goes into Kyle Shanahan's office talking about, like, hey, Kyle, can I be switched over to safety? And, that's when Kyle hits him with, do you want to ride the bench? And before that, he sets this up saying, like, I'm not going to go up to my DB coach, and I'm not going to go up to D'Amico, because I know that's over their heads in terms of who starts. So pretty much, like, anyone who starts on the defensive side, and I've been saying it for years, it's like, no, D'Amico might have some fingertips, some fingerprints, but ultimately Kyle plays the role in terms of who he wants to be out there, even on defense, that he doesn't call. So that's why he goes to Kyle first, because, it's Kyle's decision to play Jimmy at nickel instead of playing at safety over to Sean Gibson or Talanoa Funga. So he goes off on that. And then, of course, he teeters about, like, Grant. But ultimately, he goes on about he kind of tips his hat a little bit, or gives a little glimpse of his free agent look. He's just like, the Niners, there ain't no bridges burned. Everything's still, I'm always open, welcome, come back. But, hey, like, he did emphasize NFC West teams. He's like, the Cardinals, the Rams, the Seahawks have seen me. And then he mentions, like, yeah, Houston, yeah, sure, because of D'Amico. And then the Raiders.
Can you imagine Jimmy Ward on the Seahawks?
But then he mentions the Raiders, like, oh, they gave me more than the Niners last time. But I think my favorite part, what Jimmy talks about, is how contracts offers and negotiations first started with the 49ers. He mentions that they gave him an offer back in OTAs, and he says they pretty much lowballed him like crazy. He pretty much says like, yeah, they lowballed me. It was not ideal, and he just scoffed at it. And then he said they tried to come back to him about another offer, like a kind of a feelers through his position coach. So they try to talk to him through proxy negotiations, and where basically that's when he started balling out a nickel. And he says like, yeah, you could be one of the highest paid nickels of the league. And then he goes back and he searches. He doesn't give numbers at all. He doesn't give any numbers. He says it's basically the same deal these cats were trying to offer me in OTAs. It's just different because it's disguised with the name highest paid nickel corner. Which if you actually look, and I have this up, I think the highest paid nickel corner is DJ Reed. So he's going to get paid DJ Reed money. He's like, if they're going to pay me top nickel corner money, it's pretty much just not even top 10 safety money.
I see.
So he's like,
I see. So it's just a way to repackage the same mediocre offer they were giving him.
They just glossed it. They put lipstick on the pig and say, here you go.
Yeah.
And DJ Reed's getting paid freaking what? He's a 23rd highest paid corner in the league. He's getting paid like 11, pretty much around like $10 million, give or take, $9.5 to $11.5 in terms of salary or guarantees. So it's not a bad deal, but ultimately he would have to be like, okay, I'm good with nickel. But he doesn't want to play nickel. He likes playing nickel, but not indefinitely.
He can play nickel. He can do a lot of things, but he's a top 100 NFL player at safety, and someone's going to give him a lot of money to play that position. And the Niners are going to go cheap. They're going to stick with Tashawn Gibson because he's cheaper, but he's also older, and he's a good player too. No disrespect. Tashawn Gibson had a hell of a season, but is he going to do it again? At what point? He's going to be 33 next year. Jimmy's younger than him, and you're not paying for quarterbacks. You really can't afford Jimmy Ward. I mean, I'm not just saying this because I'm like best friends with him, and I'm just kidding. I'm not friends with Jimmy Ward, but he has been the most consistent player in this secondary for a very long time. He's younger than his replacement, than the guy you're going to replace him with. Money shouldn't be an issue since you're spending on nothing on quarterback. I don't know. Good for Tashawn. Can he do it again? He's 33. I want to know. And if not, are you going to draft a safety? Like, what's the plan? Is it just Tashawn? Because this whole year, if anything happened with him, you could always put Jimmy back there. What is the plan if he just becomes a 33-year-old DB? I don't know. But I appreciate it. But the most important thing is what Jimmy said about me on IG Live. Tell everyone what he said about me. No, people saw it. People saw it. I didn't pay him to say that. He genuinely felt that way.
He did mention, and he kind of, there's some point where his Instagram kept getting cut out. So, but he was a point talking about it wasn't so much that he was bummed and annoyed that, he got injured and pretty much lost his position that way. He's like, yeah, I get it. It happens. But it's like, why is other people don't have that same thing? Like, he's like, oh, you're just trying to phase me out because I'm on the last year of my deal. So that's kind of the way he was like floating it out.
But that's what they did to Eric Reed. Remember that?
Yes.
Eric Reed was on the last year of his deal, and all of a sudden he's playing linebacker. Remember?
Oh, yeah. They love to play the position take players.
Oh, you're about to hit free agency? Let me take some money out of your pocket. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know why they're doing it. Maybe they're thinking, well, if we lower his value, we'll have a better chance of re-signing him. Like, what a generous thing to do to your longest tenured player. Thank you, Parag and John and Kyle.
I really do think Jimmy would have been a Pro Bowl caliber. Not a pro. He is a pro, but I think he would have been to the Pro Bowl if he actually didn't get hurt twice and stayed onto the safety position.
I think he's a Pro Bowl caliber player too, but he's never made it. Maybe
I predicted this year. I wrote an article before saying I think it's all if he stays healthy. I said I think he's gonna make the Pro Bowl because he's been chirping and he knows it. And he admitted it. Yeah, I've been chirping, so I think they're gonna target me. And I think that was because he's been talking and he even mentioned it. He's like, no one capes for me more than me. And that's when he ends up leading to you. He's like, yeah, he's the only one that gives me my credit or my doo doo whatever. He says like that's literally it. So that's why I thought it was gonna be his year. And then the dude literally just got tossed into the garbage bin in terms
Rams should sign him. Rams should sign him. They need a safety. They need a guy who could tackle in the open field, a guy like Debo. Rams should sign Jimmy Ward. I'll tell you that right now.
He might.
Any team that has to face the Niners should sign Jimmy Ward. What do you think about what Trey said in his presser? I didn't even see it. I wasn't there that day. What did he say?
I haven't watched it yet either.
Did he say anything? Thoughts? Your boy right tackle Mike McGlinchey projected to be the top paid free agent. Good. Then the Niners won't bring him back. But if they replace him with Colt McKivitz, that's not good enough. You should go to Bolivia cheap as heck. All right, for you. And then I'll take a picture and I'll come back.
Costa Rica's dope.
Is it? You been?
No, but I know how people have been. It's just beautiful.
I want to go.
It's cost effective.
Okay. All right. Well, look, this show was an hour and a half. I had a good time. I thought it was a great show. Yeah, no, it's all right. You'll fix it though in the future.
Yeah, all I'm gonna do is just talk about my laptop. It'll work great.
Yeah,
Caveman
just
style.
be like, just hit it. You ever see that scene in Zoolander where they realize that the files are in the computer? You just got to smack it around a little bit. I'll be back in an hour and 15 with Jesse. Niners After Dark. See you guys in. Don't go anywhere.